Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third lesson in the Su-25 Cadet series. Today we are going to learn how to taxi and take off, some very basic maneuvering and landing. Okay, first off, electrical power. While everything zeroes in, call up to the ATC to get request to start.
Запуск. 1:00. Дружинник. Запуск разрешаю.
Okay. Clear to start up, and the HSI is stable. And of course my throttle is all the way back. Engine has spooled up, all the systems looks okay. Engine temperature looks good. Fine. Request taxi to
Дружинник.
runway.
100. Руление. Дружинник. Разрешаю руление на полосу 3-1.
3-1. Runway 3-1. Okay, how do I know which end of the runway 3-1 is and what is 3-1? 3-1 is the runway heading in compass bearing. That means that when you are at the runway, on the runway, pointing down the runway, your nose is pointing to 3-1. And 3-1 is not 31, it's 310. Why use 2? Well, because the runway heading is rounded up to the nearest 10. That's why. So take a look at your HSI. I can see that I'm actually pointing 310. That means when I'm on the runway, I need to be pointing this way. Okay, then I know, the only way I can do that is to be at this end, not that end. So I know I need to turn left and left. So let's do that. The Su-25 needs a bit of a throttle to get moving. Once it starts moving, you can relax on the throttle. When you taxi in the Su-25, and due to its narrow wheelbase, you need to taxi slowly and turn slowly. The manual says no more than 10 kilometers per hour. And how do I know how much 10 kilometers per hour is? Well, 5 kilometers per hour is a roughly normal walking pace. 10 is a pretty fast walking pace. So this speed, do not turn faster than this. I need to turn to left. And which line do you follow? Always follow the yellow line, and during night time follow the blue light. The blue light are taxi light and the yellow lines are taxi lines. To confirm that we are on the right way, take a look at that red sign. It says 3-1. We know now that the runway heading 3-1 is right ahead of us. And this line indicates a hold short. That means do not pass this line unless you have explicit orders and permission from the HAC. But because the ATC is not that good in DCS, he most likely won't give us permission
Дружинник,
here.
сотый, взлет.
Nope. We need to taxi forward a bit more. Throttle all the way back. Ready on the brakes. Oh, sorry. Key binding for the wheel brakes. It is W. Wheel brakes and wheel brake on. Yes, use that. Do not use axis braking on the rudder pedals, because the wheelbase is so narrow that once you start fishtailing, you die. So always use a button, that way you're 100% sure that you brake equal amount on both sides. Okay, let's see if the ATC want to give us take-off permission
Дружинник,
now.
сотый, взлет. 1:00. Дружинник, взлет по готовности. Отход по схеме на 300. По давлению 759,24.
Okay, cleared for takeoff when ready. QFE 759. That QFE rounded up is 760. Take a look at your barometric altimeter. There it says 760 at the bottom of that. That means now that is calibrated now to the correct altitude. So let's move up a bit, and we're gonna turn to the left down to the end, and there's a number I want you to see. Always make sure that no one is approaching. The ATC in DCS is just, yeah. So they will give you permission to take off even though there could be a plane coming in. So always visually make sure that no one is coming in. And no, AI planes on the final will not make a go around if you taxi out on the runway. We are at the end here, turning, just a little bit of throttle, and there you see it says 3-1 on the runway. That means several things. First of all, it means that we are at the right end of the runway as told to by the ATC. Also, when we see that 3-1, we take a look at our HSI, and you can see that compass is pointing 3-1. That means our compass is working. That compass is calibrated now. We know we can trust it now. So let's go for takeoff. Close canopy. Full flaps. First stage flaps. Full flaps. What we want to do here is full brake, 80% throttle. When that throttle reaches 70-75%, release the brake and push the throttle all the way forward. When we reach 220, 250, pull back 2/3 on the flight stick and let her lift off by herself. Do not pull harder. Depending on how heavy you are, you may accelerate faster, slower. So make sure you always use the maximum amount of runway, because you just never know. So full brake, 80% of throttle, 70-75 relief brake, full throttle, and then use very minute, very small, very gentle water input to keep the line.
1:00. Дружинник. Взлет
200.
по готовности.
Two
Отход
third
по
back.
схеме на 300.
Lift off,
Направлению
release press on stick.
759,
Gear up.
2,4.
Positive rate of climb at 100 meters. Full flaps up. Predict we will drop a bit when the flaps comes up. Perfect. 500 kilometers per hour. We're climbing a good amount. Ease off on the throttle and trim out. What is trim? Let's pause it. What is trim? Trim is that head on your flight stick. If I release my flight stick, it falls back to a center as a start point. When you're flying straight ahead, instead of having to have a constant forward pressure or back pressure on the flight stick, you can use the trim to move that starting point. What trim does is it moves the starting point so you don't have to keep a constant pressure. We need to have, let me see that in the top bottom right corner I have the controls schematics, whatever. That little that circle is my flight stick. The vertical bar to the left is my throttle, and at the bottom you have my rudder pedals. As you can see, I need to have a constant forward pressure to make sure I'm not climbing. Take a look at my VVI or VSI. This is boring, have to do this all the time, so I have two choices here. Either reduce throttle, because when you are accelerating, you will climb, and when you're decelerating, you will descend. So see, my speed is dropping and I'm descending. So prevent me from descending, I'm releasing pressure on the stick. So if you take a look at the bottom right, you can see that I'm getting closer and closer to the center. But what if you want to maintain 700 kilometers per hour straight ahead and don't touch the stick? That is where trim is coming in. So let's accelerate to 700 kilometers per hour. And just about there. For trim to work properly, you must not be in a accelerating or decelerating state. You cannot go faster and you cannot go slower. So take a look at the bottom right. I'm moving the trim, and you can see I'm descending a bit now. So and 700 kilometers per hour. Don't want to be climbing. That is just about there. I like to be 95% precise and then use fingertip movement on the flight stick. That is the way I like. I don't like to trim 100% because there are so many factors pushing you around, so it's much easier to trim 95% and then just use little fingertip movement. You can also trim for the roll if you have any damage or one bomb on the left side and none on the right side. So if I reduce power now, you can see I'm start to drop. That is gravity. If I want to climb, I just add throttle, and by itself it climbs. Aerodynamics. Ah, wonderful. Yes. Okay, now we know what trim is and how to use it. Now we want to turn back. So let's do a left turn. Smooth movement, smooth left turn. And at my ADI, you can see that ball that is moving left and right, left and right. That is my slip indicator. That indicates whether or not I'm slipping, I'm sliding around the corner. The most economical way to take a turn is completely aligned, like that, with the slip indicator exactly in the middle. That means I'm cutting the most economical way through the air in my turn. If I don't use throttle, see, I will be sacking the rear of the plane will be dragging, and that will create resistance, and my speed will be dropping, and it will be a bit harder to control. So a bit of throttle, a bit of rudder, and the easy way to remember which way to put the rudder is if the slip indicator is to the right, push to the right. If the slip indicator is to the left, push to the left. It is very simple to remember. Okay, I want to be pretty stable here. What I want to do is I want to contact tower
Дружинник,
and let them know I'm down.
100. Дружинник. Следуйте курсом 100. Удаление 22. Давление 759,24. Посадочный 1-3. Занимайте высоту круга.
Okay, he told me to fly heading 100, 100 for 22. That means even though you don't know where you are, just follow that instruction. That means we got 090 there. Fly heading 100. That means the next fat line after the 0. That way for 22 kilometers. How far is 22 kilometers? Yes, you don't really know. So unless you're gonna do expert level of navigation with known speed, known time equals known distance. So and he said runway 13. That means when I'm aligned to the runway, my nose will be pointing 130. That is completely opposite of the way we took off. And I'm just trying to keep a respectable speed, and I can see the river, the inlet over there, and I know that Batumi is just to the left of that, a few hundred meters to the left, to the north. So I'm just flying visual now, reducing my speed a bit, because the Su-25 is a very good glider. She loves to glide. She can glide a long way, so do not come in too fast, because you will have a hard time slowing down. She is very fast on the approach, so always take your time. It's better to go around than pushing it and roll off the end of the runway. So right now I know I'm flying 480 kilometers per hour, a little bit of descent. I see the runway, and which of the lines are the runway? Well, it's easy. It's the white one, the big one. The other are taxiways, and I'm almost perfectly aligned here. And he said runway 13, take a look down here, almost perfect 13. A bit more throttle.
1-0-0. Работайте с посадкой.
Дружинник, сотый, разрешите посадку.
1-0-0.
Okay, I want to reduce my speed now.
Дружинник, посадку разрешаю. Посадочный.
I do not want to
1-3.
climb. When your speed gets below 400 kilometers per hour, applying air brakes, you can extend the gear. As you can see, gear has been extended. No, the air brakes has been deployed, but I'm not slowing down that much. She really likes to float. So applying some trim. 400 kilometers per hour. Extending gear. A bit throttle. A bit less. 3 green. Full flaps. Prepare for ballooning. That she will climb a bit. Counting that. Throttle all off. Preparing the drag chute. And see those two pointy things out in front of the airplane. Those are pitcher tubes. They measure air pressure and so. Have those just below the horizon, then you know you're at the right angle. Whoops. Perfect. And keep the stick back, let it roll. When the speed comes under 200, you can apply brakes and look up. Brake chutes deployed. It's braking.
1-0-0.
Release wheel
Выйдем
brakes.
в стоянку.
Preparing to taxi off. Release brake chutes. Cool flaps up. Air brakes in. Canopy up. And then just vacate the runway as soon as possible. The speed you need to touch down at, that changes with your weight. So there are no set speed. It depends on how much fuel you have on board, your weapons, how much tailwind, headwind, and so on. So you get a feel for it. When you come in on your glide path, there is a point where you don't have full control over your descent. Then speed up a bit. So you always have something to trade with. You need a few kilometers per hour, 10, 15, 20 kilometers per hour above that limit. That is your approach speed. So, and once again, it depends on your weight, wind, and so forth. So. It is very common to land too fast. Luckily she has brake shoes, and those can brake or bleed speed very fast. So wheel brakes are not sufficient enough if you come in too fast. The brake shoes have saved me many times. So in this lesson you learned how to taxi, make sure you're on the right runway, how to make sure your compass is working. You learned how to take off, make a coordinated turn, the trim, and landing. So that is it for this lesson, and I hope you learned something. If I did any mistakes or didn't explain myself understandably, then let me know. But thank you.